Okay, we're back here solving some more, starting assignment 2.6 and with number 5. Okay, so they show us that the measure of angle 8 is the same as the measure of angle 5. And then they tell us the measure of angle 5 is 125 degrees. Alright, so if these measures are the same, I guess 8 would be 125. And they want us to show that the measure of angle 7 is 55. And these are linear pairs, so we should be able to do that. So we'll start with the given. Measure of angle 8 equals the measure of angle 5. The measure of angle 5 equals 125 degrees. That's given. I'm also going to tell you that angle 7 and angle 8 are supplements. That's also given in the diagram. So if 7 and 8 are supplements, we can go ahead and add those up to 180. We can also show that angle 8 is 125, so let's do that. So measure of angle 8 equals 125 degrees. If A equals B and B equals C, then A equals C. That's a transitive property of equality. And we already said we could add these up, so the measure of angle 7 plus the measure of angle 8 equals 180. That's the definition of supplementary angles. And we can substitute in measure of angle 7 plus 125 equals 180. And that's substitution property. Subtract 125 from both sides. So subtracting 125 from both sides, we get 55. And subtraction property of equality, that's what we wanted to prove. Okay, for number 6, we're going to prove the vertical angles theorem. So unfortunately, we won't be able to use it. And it tells us that there are linear pairs and linear pairs. We know that linear pairs are supplements. And supplements to the same angle are congruent, so maybe that would be a good way to go for this one. So angle 5, 6 are linear pair. Angle 6 and angle 7 are a linear pair. And that's given. We can say angle 5, angle 6 are supplements. Angle 6 and angle 7 are supplements. That's the linear pair postulate. So if they're linear pair, they're supplements. Supplements to the same angle are congruent. Angle 5 is congruent to angle 7. That's the congruent supplements theorem. Alright, so that one wasn't too bad as long as you remembered the congruent supplements theorem. Okay, so we're over to number 7, prove the symmetric property. And again, we've had pretty good luck here converting these to numbers and using the symmetric property of equality. So we'll try that technique again. Angle A is congruent to angle B. That's the given. The measure of angle A is equal to the measure of angle B. That's the definition of congruent angles. And so if the measures are the same, we can turn them around. Because of the symmetric property of equality. So kind of tricky. We're using equality again to try and prove congruence. And if two measures are the same, we can say the angles are the same. So these are congruent, and that is the definition of congruent angles. So that's what we wanted to prove. Proving the reflexive property, if you remember when we did it for segments, we started off with an equality, a reflexive equality. So the measure of angle A equals the measure of angle A. You can always say two numbers are equal because of the reflexive property of equality. And when the measures of two angles are equal, then the angles are congruent. And that's the definition of congruent angles. So, not too bad. Okay, proving the congruent complements theorem. So 1 and 2 are complements, or add up to 90. 3 and 4 are complements, they add up to 90. And 2 and 4 are congruent. So angle 1 and angle 2 are complements. Angle 3 and angle 4 are complements. That's been given. So we could say that the measure of, let's leave a little more room here. The measure of angle 1 plus the measure of angle 2 equals 90. And the measure of angle 3 plus the measure of angle 4 equals 90. And that's the definition of complements. Okay, they both equal 90, so we can say the measure of angle 1 plus the measure of angle 2 equals the measure of angle 3 plus the measure of angle 4. And that's just the transitive property of equality. Okay, so if A equals B and B equals C, you can set these two equal. We also had that angle 2 was congruent with angle 4. That was one of our givens. And now I can say the measure of angle 2 equals the measure of angle 4 because of the definition of congruent angles. And these two things are equal. We've got these two are equal, so we can subtract off 2 and 4. That means the measure of angle 1 equals the measure of angle 3. And that's just subtraction property of equality. And if two measures of angles are equal, then the angles are congruent because of the definition of congruent angles. Okay, I think that's all we got time for. Come back and start with 10.